Hello friends, so good to be here, or maybe not. I haven't uploaded a video in a very long time and always on a run, and I thought why not to shoot a video unprepared. And you can see here it's all pretty cold and snowy and icy actually over there. Happy holidays to everybody who celebrates. And it's, this time of the year where everyone's almost like, trying to exaggerate the joy and excitement without really sinking into just being present with, with the joys that are happening internally. We forget sometimes how little moments speak to us more than the exaggerated kind of joy or whatever it may be. I think it's important to recognize and stay still with those moments without having to glorify it or make it so that, oh wow, like look at me, I'm doing this, or like having so much fun. And most people find it hard to do that because they've gotten so used to the validation and approval and just sitting around with what society is expecting from them. But anyways, that's not the point of this video. I want to talk a few things on setting goals and really trusting ourselves to make choices that really align with who we are and the vision that we're creating. One of the most common themes about setting a goal and sticking to it is to know the purpose of why we're doing it. For what reason are we, working on this goal? And really connecting to the purpose and why of what we do is so much more important than the thing itself. So let's say that you have a goal that you're working on, and maybe it's been so long since you've been working on it and you haven't seen any results, or you haven't achieved what you wanted yet, but the reason why you're doing it, why it's so important for you to achieve this goal. And that goal can be clearly anything, like losing weight, can be going for X miles of cycling or walking, or achieving X amount of money in this amount of time. And setting it so that it's kind of realistic and tangible. So with that clear vision that we're having, we're more likely to do the thing because we have a drive behind what we want. It's not just some woo-woo goal that you've just written there or had it set in your mind, but it means something to you. And when something truly means a lot to us and we know why it's important, we know once we get it, the achievements, the success, the joy we feel, without having to attach ourselves to the outcome, but to enjoy the process. It's really important that we enjoy the process of achieving the goal. Because if we're skipping that, we're likely to fret everything that comes in the way. And maybe there are challenges that come on the way, but we don't know how to navigate that challenge because our focus and our gaze is only towards the goal. And we're skipping maybe the challenges, the things that we're learning, on our way to get what we want. And I'm not telling you that it gets easier, but it means something to you. It's enough that it is authentic to you and why you want it. The rest really doesn't matter. You know, the voices of others or someone telling you that you can't do it, or maybe you're thinking about your past and you're like, no, I screwed this up and I don't think I can get this right. Well, the past doesn't really dictate whatever you are creating right now, unless you are focused on your past, unless you are really thinking about your past a lot, and then you're creating choices, right, that are from that past conditioning. And we all get sucked into that pattern of the negative looping and the cycle of thinking about what could have happened, worst case scenario, and that is not the way. I'm only saying this because I've been there, where I'm navigating a challenge, or I'm going through like a set of my goals and what I want, and I'm like, why do I keep making the same mistakes, or why are those things happening constantly that are from the past? And then I get into this loop, and then it gets into like a vicious cycle. And that's exactly when I know something kind of needs to change about that pattern, right? And it's not really like an easy process, but it works. When we detach our past to whatever it is that we're creating right now, or the conscious thoughts that we're having now, we're more likely taking a healthier route, because that is not linked to a past happening or an experience, which tends to happen quite a lot. And I think it also helps to, take a notebook or a piece of paper, and you can write that down and see the patterns that you're creating for yourself. Maybe there is something that you decided in your past and you thought is the right thing, and then you end up reflecting on why it's not working, and you'd see that the way that you were thinking, maybe things you were focusing on, maybe your perception of yourself and what others are thinking about you is clouding your own discernment. And so you can do this kind of process, or either on paper or in your head. It helps to quite literally do it just on paper. I usually do voice notes, so sometimes when I'm on my walks, I'm more like active, my brain is working, and I feel so present with myself and my thoughts, my body, and just like really grounded. And that's when I get to reflect on things. Although I'm a big writer, but I still sometimes have to juggle with my thoughts, kind of have to speak to myself constantly, and that quite helps. But everybody's different. Everybody is, brains are wired different. They think differently. So for me, the voice notes, the journaling, the audio journaling quite helps to understand myself, and also remind yourself that don't judge yourself for whatever it is that you're experiencing. It's okay that you're maybe looking at your notebook now and you're like, what the heck, like I didn't expect that, or I didn't notice that about myself, or I wish I wasn't like that. And once that happens, notice that it's just a thought and it's just a voice coming in. You can call it the voice of judgment or whatever you want to call it. You can call it even a silly name, that doesn't really matter by now. But the point of the exercise is to just exercise your mind, and also to catch yourself when you've been blaming others, you've been blaming society, you've been blaming your circumstances for the things that you're not achieving, when it's really on you. And I'm saying it with compassion, that it's on you and it's your responsibility to pivot when things are not working. That's the only way. And you know how they say the only way out is through? It's true. Ignore the background noise. There's just a car backing. But yes, stick to the goal. Remember why it matters. And have a deadline of when you want to achieve it. You've probably heard this multiple million times by now. But everyone has different advice about goals. You just have to find what works for you, right? What works for you when you are working on a goal. Once you find what works for you, stick to that. If someone comes in and they're trying to interrupt your goal making, just kidding. But you just have to remember that everyone is wired differently. Yes, we're equal, but everyone thinks, behaves, talks, have different conditioning, different life experience. It's probably going to be different for them, like very different even. Like a friend can make a goal of X amount of things, and they're just saying that they'll do it in 3 months. And for you, it's like 3 months is short. I need to, have it for 6 months so it gives me room to think, to plan. Maybe their way of planning is faster. Maybe their way of doing things is probably better. And that's also one of the things I learned when I started practicing yoga. I didn't really set a deadline to when can I do a forearm stand or headstand. It just happened naturally, right? And I didn't have a goal to balance, for example. I didn't have a goal to start yoga. I just said to myself, I needed to find a modality, something I can express myself, something that makes me feel really strong and connected to my body, my emotions, inner awareness. And once that happened, once I started to get more into yoga and having to be consistent, I fell in love. It was a very natural process that I loved it from the very first, few days that I've been practicing it. And I never stopped ever since. And that's, end of, or mid 2020 kind of time of COVID. And it was a devastating time, but I guess, something internally kept calling me towards it, even if I felt so insecure about it, because my idea of yoga, or the way that I was thinking about yoga, is that it's just a meditative posture you sit in, or you need to have a perfect body to achieve that kind of pose, or be flexible. And it also makes sense for me to think that way, because I've never really researched. I never really learned or read anything about yoga other than seeing people do it who are yoga people. And yoga people made me feel insecure and not confident, and I didn't feel the drive or just even the curiosity to begin. And fast forward, there was a pose that I saw. It's actually a very funny story. A pose I saw from a TV show I was watching that time. And in that scene, they were going to a yoga class, and she was doing a pose of, I think it was a shoulder stand. I'm like, holy wow, what if I could do that? It's actually very funny to think about, because I'm like, people get inspired through, I don't know, like having curiosity. But I guess that's my curiosity there. Like I was like, if I could do that, what else could I do? And that seeing the potential was the drive that, like, frick, like I want to do all it takes and learn about it no matter what to get to that pose. It was actually one of the easiest poses overall so far in my journey. So that's when I started my journey. That's when I started to, I guess, tap into the knowledge, the physicality of it. And then I started to study about the philosophy of yoga, and just everything started making sense. And not just physically in my body, but like the way that I was thinking, like my mindset, everything kind of started making sense at that point. And then I said to myself, well, like I want to keep evolving in this journey, and I was just curious to know what is it going to lead me to. And obviously, like fast forward time, I was able to learn about the different poses and see how my body is able to balance. And that was just like a moment of, like, it was so exciting, and I just kept going and going and just become so consistent. And so this is just a short story, and I hope it's resonating in some way. But my whole point of sharing that was sometimes it's not enough to have a goal, but to have an intention. And with that story that I just shared, the intention was, or the desire, well, goal also can be linked to that, but goal sometimes also can be attached to success. And if I'm not going to be successful, then I wouldn't try even. So there's a kind of effed up thing about that. But yes, when we have an intention and the desire and the trust that this is what I truly want, and I'm naturally curious about it, and the only way to know if you're curious about something is to try it. Even if you're gonna mess it up, even if it's not going to turn out the way you want it to, the perfect way. If you're a perfectionist, hello. I think we would get along so well by now. But no, actually I'm learning to, to chillax and just try things and mess it up to be able to figure it out. So the intention, as I said, and the desire of it, how much do we truly want that? And why is it important that I kind of do it now and not procrastinate on it? The more you procrastinate, the more you're, obviously going to put that goal away for whatever reason, right? And we only do that because we're telling ourselves so much stories about why we can't achieve that thing or the goal or the desire. So then, once we have that desire, once we've created that intention, when we understand why we're doing it and why it's really important, we're more likely to stick to it. And especially if it's an authentic route, especially if it's something that really is at your core, is important to you. And when it's deeply important to you and it's aligning with your values in life, you're more likely to stay at it, to be consistent. That's how I've learned to become consistent. Showing up even if it was 10% of me. That 10% is actually 100% of me in that moment because, of circumstances or maybe I was feeling. So I'm not letting my mood dictate the actions that I take or change the plan that I got for myself. And yes, sometimes life happens and there are emergencies but I wouldn't let my mood kind of dictate that or have me change my plans, because I know that desire, that vision is more important than how I was feeling in the present moment, right? And mind you, it's to acknowledge what you're feeling, but at the same time, it's not to let be sucked up in the stories of your mind and who is trying to convince you, and you keep pushing your goals. And procrastination then doesn't only it's not only with your goals, but actually with your health, with your relationships, every area of your life it manifests into. So as I'm coming closer to kind of my walk in this talk, if this was helpful, and let me know in the comment section what resonated with you, and let's have a chat. Or you can even email me, shoot me an email, I'll link it in the description below, about about anything, about what your goals are. If you are struggling at the moment and wanting accountability, shoot me a message. And let's work this out together and realize that the aloneness that we create, or the story of aloneness, is just a story. I don't think it's quite true. If we want something really bad, we would burn the forest. Just kidding. Don't do that, please. Protecting Mother Nature. But yes, we'll strive to find a way, and that's a state of hopefulness and desire, and it's congruent with who you are, and that is a very beautiful state to be in, to sit with. It's really contagious, and it starts to add into other areas of your life. So I hope to chat soon with you guys, and I'm sending so much love and blessings your way wherever you are. Bye for now.